So, it's an interesting thing to note that glitches. And if there was a glitch in Anambra, the peace we are celebrating on this table, because it's supposed to be part of the process. I mean, but the same is important that when you say you are going to do A, do the A. It increases.
The press. This is the final statement by the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room, held or holding on the 2025, on the occasion of the 2025 Anambra State Governorship election that was held on Saturday, the 8th of November, 2025. The Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room observed the Anambra State Governorship election held on Saturday, 8 November 2025, deploying accredited observers across the 21 local government areas of the state. Situation Room also received reports from its partner organizations and networks observing across different thematic areas, such as ballot integrity, campaign finance, security, misinformation and disinformation, mandate protection and inclusion, as well as citizens observers from across the local government areas of the state through its election reporting app deployed for the election. Situation Room had earlier issued an interim statement on the election, and it is now making its final statement following the conclusion of the election and the declaration of results. General observations on the political environment. Situation Room notes that the election was generally peaceful, with voters conducting themselves calmly at the polling units with a few incidents of violence. Situation Room partner, Kimpact Development Initiative, KDI, recorded 35 incidents of violence and 1 fatality across the 1,000 polling units it observed, ranging from group clashes, voter intimidation and harassment, physical assault, and ballot box snatching. While we commend the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, security agencies, and other election workers for their efforts, Situation Room states emphatically that the primary drivers of the largely peaceful election were the people of Anambra State. Their collective commitment to maintaining a conducive and calm electoral environment was pivotal to the positive ambience observed across the state. Election administration. INEC manages core processes effectively throughout the election. Although polls opened relatively late in many locations, primarily due to delayed arrival of INEC officials and materials caused by transport companies engaged by INEC, the average voting time was 9:15 a.m. in the majority of the polling units observed. The bimodal voting accreditation system, BVAS, functioned optimally in most polling units, though isolated cases of malfunction and slow voter accreditation were reported requiring replacements. Situation Room particularly commends the quick and drama-free results collation process, which was devoid of the irregularities typically associated with INEC's vote tabulation and score recording at collation centers. If this continues in future elections, then it will be a positive and encouraging development in electoral management. Situation Room observed that the INEC results viewing portal, IREV, came alive shortly after the official hour for close of polls and achieved 97% upload of polling unit level results from EC8A within 5 hours, precisely at 7:30 p.m. on election day. This is also commendable. Situation Room observed that poster EC30E for voters with visual impairment were conspicuously displayed in some of the polling units visited. However, assistive materials for persons with disabilities was inconsistent. And note that Braille guide and magnifying glasses were not available in some of the voting locations where they were mostly needed. Priority voting was largely respected for elderly voters, pregnant women, nursing mothers, and PWDs. Election security. Reports from the Situation Room observers and member organizations indicate that security agents generally manage their duties with civility throughout the election process. The Situation Room notes the visible presence of numerous senior-level security officers from both the Nigeria Police Force and the Nigeria Security and Defense Corps deployed across Anambra State. Other security agencies, including the Department of State Security, DSS, Federal Road Safety Corps, ETC, were cited. Clean Foundation reports that in many of the polling units visited, security personnel were present before 8 a.m. Despite this strong presence, Situation Room would like to highlight the continued reluctance of security agents to take decisive actions against the widespread practice of vote buying during the electoral exercise. The Police Service Commission was also on ground to monitor and receive reports from citizens and observers on the conduct of policemen deployed for election duty. Security agencies continue to commit a growing number of personnel to off-cycle governorship elections. Situation Room, therefore, calls for a serious reflection on the practice of this consistent escalation in security deployment during off-cycle elections, especially when the welfare of the personnel become a cause for concern. The unhealthy transactional nature of elections in Nigeria. Situation Room is worried that our elections are continually being driven by motivations and actions that are strongly diametrically opposed to the ideals of democracy as a socio-economic political phenomenon that has its origin and destination in the service of the people. Increasingly, the dominant trait of the political class and elites in our country seems to be bordering on a Machiavellian understanding of the end justifies the means, a dangerous political philosophy that relegates the ideals and fine points of democracy as people driven to the background. Situation Room insists that the guardrails that help define the democratic experiment must not be subverted by the political elites. In this regard, Situation Room notes that the ugly phenomenon of vote buying and vote selling, occasioned by the pauperization of the citizens, our citizens, have continued to thrive and was in full swing during the 2025 Anambra State governorship election. Situation Room believes that if there is one social dynamic that clearly signals the failure of the political class to relatively deliver on the benefits of democracy, it is the unfortunate and continuous occurrence of vote selling by citizens who are yet to truly connect their living conditions to the activities of those to whom they sell their votes. Situation Room once again calls on the relevant authorities and stakeholders to genuinely commit to resolving this unfortunate occurrence in Nigeria's elections. Political parties and candidates. The general lack of commitment to a competitive electioneering process by several political parties was a drawback in this election. Situation Room is therefore calling for a reform that can urgently address these issues, including putting in place the strict criteria for political parties to be on the ballot. INEC should conduct its internal review of the performance of political parties in elections since the 2023 general elections and take suitable actions to strengthen the accountability mechanisms for political parties as we head into the process for the 2027 general elections. Abuse of state power. The Situation Room expresses concern regarding the continuous abuse of state power by incumbents during elections. In the 2025 Anambra State governorship election, there was a restriction in the erection of signages, billboards, and remapping locations for political campaigns. Campaigns in the markets were banned. Elections should be seen to be a level playing field for all candidates and parties, and not lopsided in favor of the incumbent candidate. This conduct is totally unacceptable. We therefore call for electoral reform that strictly criminalizes such abuse of state authority and resources that fundamentally undermines free, fair competition. Voter turnout. Voter turnout was disappointingly low across the state, estimated at about 21% of PVCs collected, which stood at 2,769,137. Although this was an improvement from the 10% that was recorded in the 2021 governorship election, this still calls for deeper reflection on how we can overcome voter apathy and disillusionment with the political process. Situation Room commends civil society organizations for their voter education and mobilization efforts in rural communities ahead of the election, particularly its partner, Social and Integral Development Center, SIDEC, which carried out its sensitization activities in 15 major markets and in the media. Conclusion. The 2025 Anambra State governorship election was largely peaceful, but marred by what can be attributed to lingering political distrust in public institutions and governance. Many citizens still seem uninterested in the process, and were seen carrying on with their trading in the markets. However, there was a marked improvement from the 2021 governorship election, especially with the political and security environment. Situation Room calls for strict enforcement of laws that will reduce the widespread vote buying in our elections, and reiterates its call on the National Assembly to quickly accelerate comprehensive legislative actions for electoral reforms designed to enhance political participation, improve election management, and effectively address the prosecution of electoral offenses. Credible elections remain central to democratic governance and public accountability. The lessons from the 2025 Anambra State governorship election must inform deeper reforms and stronger collaboration among INEC, security agencies, political actors, and civil society to safeguard Nigeria's democracy. These lessons must be applied to the upcoming area council elections in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, as well as the Ekiti and Osun State governorship elections, all to be conducted in 2026. There is also a need to take forward conversations on the credibility of the voters' register, welfare of security agencies, and voter apathy in Nigeria's elections as we head towards the 2027 general election. Situation Room and its partners will continue to work and advocate for electoral accountability and ensure consistency in the quality of elections conducted in the country. Thank you very much.
We cannot say, why we say, okay, fine, in major processes, INEC, you have done well, but that still does not mean they have arrived, because there are other indices you have to also look at in this election, in terms of competitiveness, in terms of the environment, in terms of the turnout, so there are a whole lot you have to look at, which you also have to incrementally engage with other elections. I can tell you that FCT election is going to be more competitive than what you have seen. Osun election is going to be more competitive, and so these are what you begin to see. However, in terms of the performance of the waivers, the upload, and a whole lot of things, yeah, Anambra have done well. The turnout we're even talking about compared to 2021 increased. So, but sustainability of this momentum and even getting better is key for INEC at this point.
Were serious issue of violence and crisis and tensions. And also there were 3 gladiators contesting for votes. In this particular one that happened there before yesterday, there was only one person contesting against himself. So that probably, so, and in the year 2017, the percentage was 26 plus. So before he went down to 10.26. So now he came up. And there are so many things. Before the election, there were so much vote buying in different forms. At the level of town unions, at the level of the markets, 158 structured markets. There were so much vote buying. So many factors contributed. People who were not interested in buying or selling of votes stayed away. So people staying away of selling their votes is a result of governance failure. So going forward, there is need for citizens to come out and place value on their PVC or their votes, and also to know that their votes might ensure good governance if they collectively come out to vote, starting from Anambra. And we have stated that we are not even sure that 2.8 million people registered are still alive. So there is need to audit the voters register to know actually who is who among. But coming to that too, you hear that the people who collected their PVCs, they still did not come out to vote. They have different reasons. So going forward to SCT elections in February next year, we want to know what the next chairman will give. He still has, the last one was a failure. And we're also looking forward to Oshun. Will be interested to test his integrity. He said he will walk the talk, and that's where we will see the real test, not even Ekiti. So many factors of violence and strong contenders contributed to what happened and killings in the year 2023. And this one was cut, especially from August, because there was so much violence in Anambra, but from August down, according to the report of Kimpat, there was no more killings or violence or anything. So there was calm generally. Maybe people lost hope and something. Whatever happened, there was calm. And because there were no serious contenders over this election. So it is not a measure of anything. It is, naturally, Anambra is Afghan. But if there are strong contenders, the result might be different.
The truth is that the CSOs and Anambra said we did not really leave it fit, escalating it. However, we pointed it out that this should be a fair playing ground for all the contenders, that people should actually win, because Anambra State economy is 70% based, that is to say,
market driven.
Yeah, that is to say, major voters in Anambra are domiciled in the market, just like Antima said. And we have 158 structured markets in Anambra State. So I did with other candidates before the election should have taken their campaign to the market, to which we expected. But taking it to INEC as a body, that's what we did not really do. I think moving forward, it's a lesson that we learned, that we need to escalate it and ensure that decisions are taken to ensure that we're able to curb that. However, I think Anambra State election being peaceful is one of those things that we anticipated, going by the campaign and investment that FCTO, Nigerian Society Situation Room, and other partners in Anambra State invested. Was a whole lot of investment. The peace that we are celebrating today, we go on social media, we see a lot of people typing congratulations. I think it's a deliberate and intentional effort of FCTO, Nigerian Society Situation and partners. We don't really need to acknowledge that. I think it's also time for us to call on other states planning their obstacle election to also take lessons from what happened in Anambra and see how far we can improve our gains so far. Thank you.
This is confidence and integrity.
Look, it is a results. You know why we are talking here? All those contenders, they should stop.
The test for two INEC chairman lies ahead. Yeah, so because this was in INEC, especially the rec and the
The INEC chairman will say no.
No, you can't say that.